Don in London, hello. My video for April the 6th, all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour equally addictive around people, places and things. That is, being with the right people, in the right place, with the right things. Driven mad trying to fit in, to be included in a way which I felt was right. So I emulated, I tried to be the person I thought I ought to be, rather than finding out on a daily basis more about me and what interests me and what's important. Yeah, big turnaround really. So rather than people pleasing or pleasing people all the time and then getting, I thought, self-esteem from it, I choose to please myself, and that is to live a life with choice, freedom of choice to live my life as best I can, given my circumstances and given my life situation today. So what a big turnaround that is for me. And what made this possible? Family, friends, community, professionals, all played their part in keeping me alive, and still do. And in addition to that, a fellowship, the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, which is what I share about here. I don't speak for AA, it doesn't have any people who speak for it. It works on the principle of what you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, maybe you'll stick around and enjoy learning what it's like to be sober, or continuing with sobriety and then sharing it with other people. So, unique, authentic people making their lives, or not making them work, but living life as life is possible given the situation that we live in. So, unique and authentic. So I can't speak for anybody who's unique and authentic, nor can I second guess them. So that is why there are no spokespersons for the fellowship, because unique, authentic people go there to learn freedom of choice in the moment of now. And the greatest freedom I've learned is to be sober, not to be addicted and active, but to be an addict or recovering alcoholic. And although some people will want to differentiate between alcohol and drugs, I guess for me I've learned that they're one and the same in my own living. So alcohol would be as bad as drugs. I wasn't a drug taker of illegal drugs, but I'm sure I relied on prescription drugs overly when I couldn't cope. So these days, how do I cope? Well, by learning the truth of what my situation is, learning what it's like to be understanding of other people and they understand me, and learning wisdom from other people. And I do that with fellowship and everybody else too. So fellowship is the foundation, which offered me a program of 12 steps to live well, and 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together and also impact on my life and my personal conduct in being a part of society, community, family. And we all have different variations, so how on earth could we ever say we're all the same, except for one thing, a desire to be sober. So I always share the AA preamble in these videos, this honest little card, which also contains inside it the 12 steps and 12 traditions of AA. And there are 12 months, so April's the 4th month, so I cover the 4th step and what it means to me, using the literature of the program and maybe one or two other things from time to time. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So part of recovery is understanding what our situation has been, an honest appraisal or self-appraisal which we then share with another human being of our choosing as we feel able and confident. A self-appraisal to find out what went right and what went wrong, or our assets and liabilities. So the literature in the books of AA Daily Reflections, this one, is all about step 4 in April. And as Bill sees it, there are readings connected to the inventorying, if you like, doing this personal inventory of what made us tick, what made us happy, what made us sad, what made us angry, what made us resentful. And often it was not actually understanding life too well, and the fact that we did have choices, but we thought because of circumstances and it was horrible, or we just wanted oblivion, we felt we needed to keep on relying on alcohol, which then became self-harm when we couldn't stop. So that's where we got to. So for April 6th, in the Daily Reflections, this one, he talks about a lifetime process of understanding what makes us tick and where we're going. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. And I remember that so well. And I can still feel like that too, when possibly I make no impact or haven't got the right answer. But these days I say I don't know and I haven't got the right answer, so they can move on faster to somebody who might have the right answer. And that's why meetings for me are so important. Partly I do these videos because people can't get to meetings, but I always encourage people, if they can, or anyone, if you can, meetings are better than readings. Continuing, it says, these words remind me that I have more problems than alcohol, that alcohol is only a symptom of a more pervasive disease. When I stopped drinking, I began a lifetime process of recovery from unruly emotions, painful relationships and unmanageable situations. This process is too much for most of us without help from a higher power and our friends in the fellowship. When I began working the steps of the AA program, many of these tangled threads unravelled, but little by little the most broken places of my life straightened out. One day at a time, almost imperceptibly, I healed. Like a thermostat being turned down, my fears diminished. I began to experience moments of contentment. My emotions became less volatile. I am now once again a part of the human family. Relief. And when I say we are part of the human family again, of course, when we get to be part of the human family again, nothing changes around our ability to conduct ourselves unless we experience life. So doing step work, or practicing the steps, or living the steps of the program, means we do engage in human activities and everything to do with life. And sometimes love will make us joyful, and then sometimes we can be heartbroken. It will make us very sad and ache desperately inside. But at least when we're sober and we're not trying to fix this feeling, that we actually experience the feelings in reality as they're happening rather than suppress them or deny them, then we are understanding our personal situation much better. So there's good news and bad news of recovery around that. When we engage in relationships, which is fantastic, and we make friends and we may find a partner, I might have found the right girl and then she got away. Well, actually she didn't get away, she ran away. Or did she? No, I think we just came to an understanding that whatever, we've experienced love and then we had heartbreak, because A, we don't want to break our own hearts, and B, we don't want to break anybody else's heart either. But heartache comes in recovery, and that's the gift of love. It's not unnatural to feel these things. So man has his natural instincts, and part of that is love. What else could there be a reason for living? Well, not to drink daily like I used to. So in all these things, we become more human. And as we get more human, it's quite painful, but it's also quite joyful as well. Looking at page 40, as Bill sees it, with the inventory in mind, it says here, material achievement. Yes, romance and finance, the things which bug most of us. Why haven't we got romance? Or I've got too much romance. Why haven't I got any money? What am I going to do with all this money I've got? And of course, the excess of where we've come from can actually drive us back into dark places if we're not careful. So the whole thing about the inventory is about balancing and understanding, do my feelings fit my situation, or am I trying to fix a feeling that I have? And of course we can't fix feelings. Feelings are what we are. We think about them a lot and we try and think our way out of it, but actually we have to experience our way through life. It's the experience, and feelings change through time and through experience. So, material achievement. No member of AA wants to deprecate material achievement, nor do we enter into a debate with the many who cling to the belief that to satisfy our basic natural desires is the main object of life. But we are sure that no class of people in the world ever made a worse mess of trying to live by this formula than alcoholics. Yeah, because we try to control it all, or we try to run away from it. We demanded more than our share of security, prestige and romance. When we seemed to be succeeding, we drank to dream still greater dreams. When we were frustrated, even in part, we drank for oblivion. In all these strivings, so many of them well-intentioned, our crippling handicap was our lack of humility. And humility really means to keep on learning, and be open to learning and making mistakes. We lacked the perspective to see that character building and spiritual values had to come first, and that material satisfactions were simply byproducts and not the chief aims of life. And I can recollect that towards the end of one of the fairly successful careers I had, most of my life had gone to pot, and I only got my self-esteem or some sense of purpose from my career and the work I was doing. And then foolishly I thought material, I deserved more. And actually I did, but that's not the point. It was not forthcoming, and I felt cheated, angry and resentful. And of course that set off a chain of events which made me want oblivion, couldn't fit in, knew I was right, and I was right, but that's not the point. It doesn't matter how right we are about some things. If we're in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time, no amount of righteousness is going to make a difference. So, as the world is cheating itself, I didn't want to join in, and at the same time I thought I knew better. But other people thought they knew better, and I suffered because of it. I was battling a rock up a really steep mountainside, and at the top of the mountainside were a bunch of directors who weren't for change. And I learned my lesson. But you know, it put me into a nervous breakdown. It made my whole life miserable because I didn't have any balance. I put all my eggs in one basket around career and seeing my value in terms of currency, of money. And these days, money, if I have any, is a byproduct of living in what I do. It's not the main reason why I'm here. The main reason why I'm here is to live life with freedom, which is possible given the situation I have around me. So it's about being realistic, and that's what I've learned is spiritual, the ability to cope with now, the truth of now, love as it is, and wisdom I get from others, and that's the humility to keep on learning life. So every day I can learn something, and I've learned a lot today, but I can't tell you why, because it's private and it's not my business. Yeah, it's not my business to share on some things. So for April 6th in this book, Thought for the Day, a Hazelden publication which has got nothing to do with AA. Well, that's not to undermine it, because we get words of wisdom from wherever. I can get them from people I meet in the street who give me great advice, some of which I can't take. Anyway, Thought for the Day from the 24-Hour Day book. All alcoholics have personality problems. Otherwise we wouldn't drink, would we? They drink to escape from life, to counteract feelings of loneliness or inferiority, or because of some emotional conflict within them, so that they cannot adjust themselves to life. So, in other words, we need to adjust ourselves to our life situation. Alcoholics cannot stop drinking unless they find a way to solve their personality problems. And of course, none of us wish to say we have personality problems. We may have exceedingly excessive personality traits, but it's still a problem. That's why going on the wagon doesn't solve anything. So just stopping drinking won't stop the anxiety or the fear or the ego that we get. That's why taking the pledge usually doesn't work. Was my personality problem ever solved by going on the wagon or taking the pledge? And I can honestly say, no, it didn't. But it was a starting point, and it made me feel fractious and horrible. and either I relapsed and went back to it without help, or I sought help and eventually understood that fellowship was going to help me. The meditation of the day in this book mentions God, and the word God is what we come to understand on a personal level for ourselves. So for me, God is truth, love and wisdom. Not my opinion, so truth, the absolute truth of now. Love, how to love people and be loved back. And wisdom, which I learn from other people. So God works through others. So I don't know how that fits with anybody else's definition, but it doesn't have to, because it's our own unique, authentic take of a higher power in our lives. So truth is a high power, love is a power greater than me, and wisdom is what I learn from other people. So God irradiates your life with the warmth of His Spirit, and that's the spirit of the universe. So if I stop trying to run the show as if I knew better and felt included and a part of, then things start to happen. Bigger things happen than I could ever imagine or control. Loosen your hold on the earth. It cares and it worries. It cares and it worries. Unclasp your hold on material things. Relax your grip. And when people say get a grip, they want you to grip onto whatever it is they want you to do. So the most important thing to say to yourself is, when needing to grip, do I need to hold on to this, and am I trying to control things? And the answer is no. It doesn't work like that. And the tide of peace and serenity will flow in. So in other words, what flows in is the wisdom of the world. Relinquish every material thing and receive it back again from God. Or in other words, should I be hanging on to this, or is it just something that's part of what is me? Do not hold on to earth's treasures so firmly that your hands are too occupied to clasp God's hands as He holds them out to you in love. And maybe it goes beyond what I understand God to be able to do. But what I do know is that if I open my heart to the world and people know where I'm coming from, the right people start to become part of my life, because they get to know me. And if God is working through people, then the right people will want to stick around. Prayer of the day. I pray that I may be open to receive God's blessing. In other words, stop playing God and be open to be included in things and be a part of, but not judging it or trying to, the X Factor is not life. It's an unreality show. I pray that I may be willing to relinquish my hold on material things and to receive them back from God. And the basic understanding for me, without any religious connotations, because I still don't know, I can't define God and never can. Far bigger than me, whatever made the universe and everything. But what I do understand is the principle that if I want to run the show as if I know better than anybody else and accumulate wealth and have excess, then I will undermine my spiritual, I suppose, experience, the spiritual experience of living in the moment of now, where I can be part of, included, and as a byproduct, romance and finance might happen, or there may be no romance or no finance. But that's not the point. The point is to engage in life sober. However we come to that conclusion, and AA is not the only way, but it sure works for me. So there you are. I plug it to an extent to share what is possible, but not to promote it, because AA can't fix a thing. What we learn is how to live life sober, and then in the process, by living and experiencing life, it gets more understood, more comfortable, and we make mistakes, and with humility we keep learning. So humility is not a bad or crazy word. It's actually saying, I need to keep on learning life, and life is changing rapidly, always, for me. So I finish my daily video with the Serenity Prayer, and what follows on from these are previous years, which I've been adding together just for my historical record for myself, but it teaches me something about how I was and how I am now. So there are parts 1 to 4 in this one. The Serenity Prayer I share at the end because that is what saved me from self-indulgence, apart from doing these videos maybe. The serenity prayer to God of good conscience is simply how it works for you and how life works. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is always just for today. So my addictive substance, alcohol, alcoholic in recovery, one day at a time, and equally addicted to behaviour, so substance and behaviour for me, my behaviour, work, relationships, material, collecting, obsessing, desiring, you name it, working so hard I couldn't see straight some of the time, and in relationships which were always intense and then sort of petered out, because they couldn't be sustained at that level of extreme, I guess, and moving on and moving on and moving on, and always striving to be okay, or to be perfect, and certainly I wasn't, and I always knew there was room for improvement. So a driven individual, always feeling less than in some respect. But these things I didn't know when I was drinking. It just took the edge off the feeling of anxiety, exhaustion, tiredness, I don't know what, anything to fix the feeling inside and trying to relax. But as with everything, if we overdo it and continue to overdo it, we are dependent before we know it. And then from dependency to addiction is one cross over a line, or when we step over that line, going back into recovery, or coming back into recovery, means that we are addicted if we go back and try again. Because it's all about trying to exert will, or self-will. And what I know is, if we take it too far to extremes, self-will will become obsession and run riot. So these days I try and avoid that. No, I don't try and avoid it. I don't have to, because I'm in recovery, and I know when obsession starts. So, what's it like to be in recovery? Well, how did I get there as well? It wasn't me. It was other people who helped me along the way. So family, friends, community and professionals kept me alive long enough to have some clarity that I could not beat addiction on my own. And that was the moment of clarity. And when that happened, it was the start of a very difficult journey which took some years to find what sober might be like. To be sober one day at a time, and then build on that, so that I have a clear head and experience life as it is. That's something called a spiritual connection to now. And I always thought that spiritual and religion were interwoven, and they're not particularly for me. Spiritual is just simply being aware of being in reality right now, and what is possible and what is not possible, and the ability to cope with life as it changes. So what helped me immensely, and is a very big part of my recovery story, is the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Never speak for it. Full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will, and because it's an anonymous fellowship, you join and you say if you're in, if you don't want to say you're in, you don't have to. And beyond that, the anonymity is a sanctuary to find our truth, how to be truthful to ourselves and other people around us about who we are, what we are, and how to be in society. So, all good, but it's hard work. And, you know, who said it was going to be easy? Life is difficult, as M. Scott Peck said. M. Scott Peck, who wrote that book, The Road Less Travelled, and on his death, one of the obituaries said, the writer M. Scott Peck died. He was a chain-smoking, gin-sodden philanderer, and he lasted quite a long time. And he wrote that book, and it was full of wisdom. But the gift is, if we've got the wisdom, we have to put it into action. So the action, if you like, for me in fellowship is to change my attitude and behaviour, and to know that it's possible, that my attitude can change, that I can make good choices based on what is going on for me. And this morning was quite a difficult one. checking my blood sugars. I'm type 1 diabetic, doing the right injections to get it to the right level. I engaged in a little bit of aerobic exercise using Pilates because my foot is healing and I'm starting to be able to move about a bit. And I overdid it and gave myself a hypo, which is where the blood sugar goes dangerously low. And I only spotted it when it got to 3.3, and it was still going down. I could feel it. So I'm recovering from that little event. So it's spring here. I want to be out and doing, but I'm having to be careful with my foot and the fractures and pay attention to what is going on for me. So good sense means I have to stay put and do the right thing, which is just gently recover. And now my blood sugars have gone too high, I have to adjust them carefully and not in a great big rush. I have to take it easy. Not easy for somebody who wants to be active. Anyway, Alcoholics Anonymous, without it I wouldn't have been alive to get type 1 diabetes or be actually diagnosed properly with clinical depression as well. So the gift of recovery is knowing what's wrong with us as much as knowing what is right with us. And I'm smiling because, you know, I'm still alive. I'm still alive and in the game of life, one day at a time, even though life kept on happening. So there's no protection from reality in sobriety. What we actually get is the gift of reality and sobriety. And it's hard sometimes, and that's perfectly okay, because we learn from the difficult as well as the wonderful and the joyful. We learn from both. So, what is AA and why do I share about it? Well, it saved my life. So I share the AA statement of intent and a little bit of reading, and April is all about I share about the 12 steps of AA, April being all about step 4 for me, which is doing a personal inventory or audit of how I got to where I am and how I want to be today. And that sounds like very easy, but it's not. It's a thorough and careful inventory of who I am and then dealing with it. So anyway, the statement of intent about AA, if you encounter it or you're in it. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I share from this book daily reflections and 1 page a day of something to think about, a reflection or meditation each day to help us improve our outlook, attitude and behaviour. And as I say, it sort of covers step 4, the fearless moral inventory, and it says here on April 6th, a lifetime process. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We weren't happy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people, and that was while we were drinking. These words remind me that I have more problems than alcohol, that alcohol is only a symptom of a more pervasive disease. When I stopped drinking, I began a lifetime process of recovery from unruly emotions, painful relationships and unmanageable situations. This process is too much for most of us without the help of a higher power and our friends in the fellowship. When I began working the steps of the AA program, many of these tangled threads unravelled, but little by little the most broken places of my life straightened out. One day at a time, almost imperceptibly, I healed. Like a thermostat being turned down, my fears diminished. I began to experience moments of contentment. My emotions became less volatile. I am now once again a part of the human family. And the gift in all of this is we get to be ourselves and to be part of the human race again. What a gift. And when it's not right or it is going right, the serenity prayer, which can be said any time of day to give me a bit of guidance, to God or good conscience or God, or both. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, like hypos and doing my injections and my depression. Courage to do the things I can, deal with them. And the wisdom to know the difference is, for me, always just for today. Recovery from addictions to either substance or behaviour. My addictions, alcohol, my behaviour, as well as alcoholic, workaholic, relationshipaholic, trying to be perfect and never so. Always had a feeling of less than, not sure, driven by fear, putting on a brave face and utilising ego maybe more than it is worth utilising. And what I'm learning as I keep in sober living just one day at a time is that life can be more balanced. It won't stop life experiences happening which are at the extremes of living, but if I can keep an open mind, be open, honest and willing, and make the day work without putting a drink inside me to take the edge off or to blot out reality and prefer oblivion, then I've got a better chance of being a part of, included and in the game of life, or just in the experience of life. I don't think life is a game. It's an experience. It's experiencing every day and learning a bit of wisdom as we go along. So what helps me keep sober just one day at a time is simply the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, but I speak about my experiences and what it has done for me. So there are no leaders in the fellowship, and it's just a bunch of ordinary people getting together from all walks of life, from what you might call the bottom to the high, from the left to the right. The diversity is anyone and everyone who has one simple thing in common: alcohol, or that substance, or that behaviour. And if I wasn't in AA, I guess I might be in another fellowship, another anonymous fellowship, trying to make one day work at a time, if I survived long enough to get there. And that is a problem for many people who are stuck in the addiction. How on earth do you get to a place of being well, or in recovery, and keep it going? Well, I've only found one way so far, and I've tried many. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is the backbone of my recovery, and it makes everything else possible. So I go to meetings regularly, and at the beginning of every meeting we share the AA preamble, which is a statement, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, and certainly doesn't support my videos. These are my activities. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. That is it, really. That's the statement. It's there about sobriety. And I'm just getting something off my screen. That's better. So where am I today? Monday morning, and it's bright. So it's going to get rainy, and I had a great day yesterday. I was in good company for lunch, extremely good company for lunch, and we went to Battersea Park. And then later I went to a couple of meetings of AA. And on Sundays there's meetings of AA all round here, where I live. And I guess I'm spoiled for choice. And I decided to go to a Newcomers meeting first, where I get in touch with why it is I'm in the fellowship, and then went to a more established meeting which is all about experience, strength and hope, and the traditions of the fellowship. So it gives us a bit of background about recovery, unity and service. So on the one hand, for individuals there is open, honest and willing 12 steps, which are just merely suggestions. And then on the other side we have what keeps the fellowship together, which is about recovery, service and unity, and those traditions which keep AA afloat on a daily basis. And AA is changing as people change, as society changes, as community changes, as attitudes and behaviours change. So the gift is that as we are changing too, changing our attitudes and behaviour about what we can do to keep in recovery, we keep in the game of life, in this life, and not excluded from it, from isolation, drinking or whatever substance or behaviour keeps us separate and excluded. So what helps me besides just going to meetings, and the reasons why I do these YouTube videos is simply, it's part of my daily meditation at the moment. I might change them to evenings where I share more about the day in hand, but I'm not sure yet. And You know, I was talking to some newcomers yesterday, and somebody I know, 10 months recovery, gets angry and resentful, goes out for a drink, comes back 4 days later, said I've had a slip and a relapse. And you know, the good thing is that they came back and admitted it promptly, and the reason why it's so good is because it's cutting out this guilt and shame about not being perfect. Nobody is perfect, and it's very easy to fall into the feeling that if we fail in some way and we've let ourselves down, we cannot come back. And the gift was this person came back almost immediately. And then later at the second meeting I bumped into somebody who is also back from a relapse, and they cannot explain why. And there is no why or wherefore. If we're an addict and in the addiction and we isolate and feel excluded, we get to one place often very quickly, and that's resenting our lives and ourselves for not being good enough. So the gift of these two people coming back reminds me how easy it is. A drink is only an arm's length away, and I need to be vigilant, as anybody in recovery needs to be vigilant. Otherwise we forget to include ourselves, to be a part of, and to be able to be in fellowship, friendship, family, community, all those things. It's so easy to go wrong, and it's as easy to go right, and sometimes we can't tell the difference. So we have to be very, very careful and keep with what works. And what works for me are using the Daily Reflections, this book, and As Bill Sees It, this book. These are all daily readers, if you like, and this 12-step and 12 tradition, which outlines the 12-step program for individuals and the 12 traditions which hold fellowship together. And they're important. Everything is important, and we get from it what we can. And this daily reflection book covers one of the 12 steps of action each month, and being April is step 4, which is all about doing a fearless moral inventory to find out who we are and what we can improve on, and what we need to let go. So it says here, a lifetime process. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. These words remind me that I have more problems than alcohol, that alcohol is only a symptom of a more pervasive disease. When I stopped drinking and began a lifetime process of recovery from unruly emotions, painful relationships and unmanageable situations, that's what happened. This process is too much for us without help from a higher power and our friends in fellowship, and the higher power is what you choose it to be. When I began working the steps of the AA program, many of these tangled threads unravelled, but little by little the most broken places of my life straightened out. One day at a time, almost imperceptibly, I healed. Like a thermostat being turned down, my fears diminished. I began to experience moments of contentment. My emotions became less volatile. I am now once again a part of the human family. And how important is that? It's vital that we get back into society and plugged in, and if we can, to family. And in As Bill Sees It, this one, page 70, Truth the Liberator. How truth makes us free is something that we AAs can well understand. It cuts the shackles that once bound us to alcohol. It continues to release us from conflicts and miseries beyond reckoning. It banishes fear and isolation. The unity of our fellowship, the love we cherish for each other, the esteem in which the world holds us, all of these are products of the truth which, under God or good conscience, we have been privileged to perceive. Just how and when we tell the truth or keep silent can often reveal the difference between genuine integrity and none at all. Step 9 emphatically cautions us against misusing the truth when it states we make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others, because it points up the fact that the truth can be used to injure as well as to heal. This valuable principle certainly has a wide-ranging application to the problem of developing integrity. And I guess really open, honest, willing, finding truth, and as Gandhi said, God is truth, God is love, God works through people. So when I say the serenity prayer each morning when I wake up, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It is just for today. Don in London. Just a little short video about 12 steps of AA, and these are action steps. So when anybody in business talks about step change in an organisation, it applies also to people, and these are 12 step changes we can make as human beings to make life work a day at a time. So, step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable, has 2 components. Powerless over alcohol, that for an alcoholic means not being able to stop drinking, and that our lives have become unmanageable is almost self-explanatory, that we can't manage life anymore because we have to drink. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, and it doesn't matter what you make your higher power, as long as that higher power has some meaning for you. And for me, in early days of being in the Alcoholics Anonymous Fellowship, my higher power was listening to the wisdom of other people who lived simply sober a day at a time. Not complicated, just sober one day. And that's what the program's all about, just 24 hours. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now for me, I'm still learning what God could be, and so far I've come up with the understanding there are 6.5 billion people on the planet. Each has a definition of God which is their personal opinion, and all of them are right. So I'm entitled to mine, and as far as I can make out, God is truth for me, and God works through people, so I can hear the wisdom of the years from others. The fourth step made a searching, fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It's simply doing a self-appraisal, as many people experience in life. We go to work and we have appraisals. Often we have to appraise ourselves, and in this 12-step program we do that. So we write down the good and the bad of us, or the good and less helpful. And then step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. It's simply letting the cat out of the bag to another human being, because expression of the good and the bad of us helps us make our minds up what's good for us and what we want to do next. Then it says, step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And the truth, God is truth for me, so if I know my defects, which is about fear, putting on a brave face, and ego, I can deal with my shortcomings, which is step 7, asking Him to remove our shortcomings. And again, truth comes into it, so my shortcomings are often courage, faith and confidence. How hard is that to do? Well, if we're living the program, we do it on a daily basis. 8, made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And that is simply making a list of things we want to try and put right, if we can, for those we have harmed, and that includes ourselves too. And then step 9 is making direct amends to people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So we don't flail about and make our apologies or say we're sorry all over the place, especially if it could hurt other people. And the living amends we make is actually living our lives better, with a bit more courage, faith and confidence to do the next right thing. So step 10, continue to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. Yeah, I make mistakes every day, and promptly admitting them lets me off my fears, if you like, of being found out, because if I actually go for it, share it and get it out there, then it won't come back to hurt me more than once or twice. But we do make mistakes, and we better admit them, or we have them banging on in our head for God knows how long. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him. So my way of praying and meditating is to understand the truth of now and experience the power of now, and help me make me understand what I can and cannot do, and what is bothering me and what is making me happy. And then step 12 is having a spiritual awakening. As the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So the spiritual experience for me is this: it's learning how to live in the day, how to make life work, and keep the message open and simple for other people who may have a problem too. And the spiritual part of this is living now, making the right connections with less denials and less filters. And that's a quick go through 12 steps of the AA Step Change Program.